Hello and welcome everybody. I'm your host Jessie-Sarah for our Intuitive Growth with Oracle and Tarot Card series. Today we are joined by a really magical being, Candace, and you are normally known as Lalantia. Which one would you prefer us calling you today?
You can call me Lalantia. I know on Zoom it calls me Candace because that's my legal name. Yeah.
Awesome. So since everyone else has seen the names, we know that we're connecting with your essence self, which is Lalantia. That is actually a very unique situation. Like a lot of people go through these dynamics where they're changing their names, they're changing their identities and everything like that. How do you feel the connection between having like your Candace name, Lalantia, and that intuitive self? How do they combine for you?
Well, I use my name Lalantia, which is my soul name. I use that in all of my business stuff, and I use it for pretty much all my online connections. And as I meet new people, they often call me Lalantia. But it's harder for people who have known me for my whole life to just switch to calling me Lalantia. And my legal name has not been changed so far. So I go by Candace, obviously for banking, and my kids' teachers know me by Candace, and my mom and my family. So I haven't made any transition in regards to that, and I feel pretty good with it this way. I'm good with people calling me either one. I'll answer to either name. I don't really feel a confused energy. Some people say there's a confused energy if you go by two names, and I think it's all about the energy, like how you feel about it. So I'm good with either. But yeah, most people know me by Lalantia in this kind of situation, I guess.
Okay. I have a funny question. I'm not sure if you've ever thought of this before, but when you pull cards, have you ever played with pulling cards using your different names?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
I
I wonder
haven't
if
really.
it would impact that anyway.
I think that it's all about, it's just about the energy. So, my energy is the same either way. I know sometimes people they don't resonate with the name that they were given to them. I'm lucky in that I actually like the name Candace. I don't have a problem with my name Candace, but it is connected to, my past, which isn't like such a bad thing. Like my past brought me to where I am today. But my soul name Lalantia is what, is that deeper connection to the work that I'm here to do. So I feel that very strongly. So yeah, I haven't really thought about like in that way, but I have had people come to me and like, how do you figure out what your soul name is? And for me, it was the dragons told me. So it wasn't like I didn't even like think about it. It didn't even cross my mind to find another name. They just told me that was my name, and I was like, oh, okay, so I guess that's my name. And then a couple of years later I started using it. But other people, it's just like they resonate with a certain name and that's what they go with, and that's okay. So yeah, I thought I would mention that because some people are like, how do you find out what your soul name is?
That's beautiful. And all of Candace's links are sorry, now I'm calling you Candace because I read it on the screen. In the bio, so you can find out more about how to connect with your soul name from there. And Lalantia does amazing readings and connections with the dragons as well. So that's there for you too. But let us explore. So I love how you said, it's connected to your past, but your past led you to where you are here now. Where did your journey begin with reading cards?
So tarot and oracle cards, mostly oracle, I guess, came into my life pretty much at the beginning of my awakening, because I was so, yeah, I guess I'm gonna use the word desperate. I was desperate at that time for connection to something. And I needed a tool that would help me in receiving guidance, because I didn't have enough of a connection with myself yet. Like I was so disconnected from who I really truly am and my own intuition, that I needed that bridge to kind of help me see, oh, I actually can receive this information. And, people see the cards in different ways, and I wouldn't say that any of the ways are wrong. It's just how we interpret the energy. I believe that the cards, you know, they all have energy. So each deck has its own energy and can bring forward messages that resonate with you in a different way. If I'm working with the Oracle of the Unicorns deck, and then I'm working with the unicorn energy. But there's also the saying that, you know, it's our own energy that activates the cards, and it's ourselves that's bringing through the messages through the cards. I actually like the both ways. Like, both ways resonate with me. I think they can work both ways, but I do think that the cards, each deck has an energy that's really powerful on its own as well.
When you're in that desperate space, which I think a lot of us find the spiritual path from being in some situation where we're like, I just need some help, please. Did you see that bridge? Were you connecting with parts of yourself, or did you perceive yourself as like connecting with the unicorns, the fairies, etc.?
At that time, I definitely was going outside of myself for the answers. So I was seeing myself connecting with the different beings. And I actually, the first deck that I got was an angel tarot deck, and it was almost confusing. There was too much in it for me. And so I don't remember how many decks I went through. And then I got the Keepers of the Light deck by Kyle Gray. And that deck has individual beings for each card. So I would pull the cards, and this was probably, I don't know how far along I was into my journey, but they were the first cards that I actually channeled from. I didn't know I was channeling, but I would pull the cards, and then I would sit down and I would journal, and they would actually come through with the message that I needed. Yes, the card would have a message itself, but I stopped even looking at the book. I wasn't looking at the book at all. And I just received this long message. Like, they were just talking to me. And I was like, wow, you know, this is amazing that these beings are talking to me. But it's like I didn't really connect it to, I was actually channeling them. I don't know how I didn't make that connection right away, but it took me a little while to be like, oh my goodness, I'm actually channeling these beings. And so that was my first experience with channeling, as I would just channel messages for myself from that deck and the beings that were in that deck. So for me, it was going outside of myself for the information at that time.
You say going outside of yourself, which I think is a good awareness for people, that when we're connecting with these other beings, it is an external connection that we're making. But because you were channeling, was that really going outside of yourself, or was it just opening you up to an aspect of yourself?
Well, I think that sometimes it is oftentimes connecting to an aspect of yourself. I think that in that situation, because I was channeling these different beings, you know, I was channeling the Shekna, and I'm trying to remember all the different beings in it. Lord Ganesh, you know, these different beings were specifically coming through in that situation. But when I started using just like general tarot cards, for example, and I would pull, and I do this still even, or the messenger oracle, where it's not specific beings, it's just a message. And then when I channel, it is like channeling myself, or yeah, it's channeling myself, like channeling my higher self messages through. So that is a really good point, because we absolutely can channel, and it's not really from outside of ourselves. It's like our channeling our higher self. I guess that's how I would look at it.
Beautiful. You shared about all the different angel decks as the deck you started off with. Could you share with us what your favorite deck is now, if there's one or a couple?
So when people ask me what my favorite deck is, I usually say that my favorite deck is the Oracle of the Dragon Fae. This deck kind of felt like a lifesaver to me. It was an eye-opener, an awakener, an activator. It brought forward lots of remembrances within me. This deck is channeled messages in the book. Like, if you read the book, it's channeled messages that Lucy channeled and she put in the book. So when I started working with this deck, and even still when I use this deck mainly for myself. I don't even use this for others most of the time, because it's my deep connection. Once in a while I'll feel called to pull cards for my clients or other people, but most of the time it's for myself. And I'll look in the book for the message, because it's always so powerful and life-changing for me. And so when I need extra support, or I need a reminder of who I really truly am, this is the deck that usually tells me, like, hey, stop, stop putting yourself down, stop thinking that you're unworthy, whatever it may be. And they always remind me of exactly what I need to hear and kind of, bring me back to myself.
Mm.
But the deck that I am loving the most at this moment, besides that one, is the Mists of Avalon Oracle. So I am absolutely obsessed with Avalon. I'm very deeply connected to Avalon. My intention is to have a retreat center in Avalon, which is in Glastonbury. And I found this deck. I remember I was walking through the bookstore and this deck was there, and I might have screamed out loud. Like, I didn't even know this deck existed. And I'm like, okay, I'm buying this now and I'm going to use these cards right this minute. So I have been using this deck a lot in my weekly readings, and when I'm channeling for other people, sometimes I feel called to pull a card, and it's an amazing deck. It's absolutely beautiful. When I did a review of it, I said that this deck was perfect in all ways, except for it's not matte finish. So it's hard to take pictures of them because they get all shiny.
The real struggle.
Yeah. Just because of the pictures or just showing it, even on camera and showing the cards is a little bit harder because of the reflection. But that is my only complaint about this deck, I think, is that it is amazing. So anyone who feels that connection to Avalon or liked the Mists of Avalon book, I read the Mists of Avalon years ago, and it was like a massive awakener for me. I wasn't awakened yet. I didn't understand what I was feeling, but it brought back a lot of past life stuff for me. So when I did awaken, I was able to explore that and understand why I felt such a strong connection to Avalon.
Beautiful. You say you hadn't awakened yet. When the journey with your cards began in that space, how did reading the cards and beginning that journey of learning that you're channeling, how did that lead into your awakening?
Well, I think that an awakening isn't necessarily like bam, it's done type thing. So it's kind of a little bit hard to say how it went. It was more like allowing myself to believe more and more and more, and to understand things in a different way, and to get rid of these boxes, because we have so many boxes, and we're so conditioned by this world and to what is really real. So for me, it was being able to knock these boxes down one by one, and actually started out with angels. And I didn't believe in angels. Like, I had a wall there, and I wanted to believe, but I just had this wall that I couldn't believe in angels. And I'm like, why can't I believe in angels? Why is it so hard for me to believe in angels? So I went to someone, I had a Reiki session, and we did Reiki. She did Reiki with me. And then we talked about angels. And then I was driving home afterwards, and I was like, oh my goodness, I believe in angels now. It was like literally an hour, everything shifted. It just shows you what energy healing can do, right? So that was a huge turning point for me. That was the one thing that I think was a big shift, where I could actually see a shift like right then and there. And then once I believed in angels, it was a lot easier to believe in fairies and, elementals of all kinds and dragons. But I felt like I didn't really fully believe until I felt them. Some people say seeing is believing. For me, feeling is believing. It helps to see. Yes, it's very helpful to see. But when I feel the energy of them, I can't deny what I feel. That is my entire body knows this is real when I feel them so deeply. Like when I met my dragon for the first time, my main dragon, and she came in, and I swear I cried for like a week straight. I mean, it wasn't obviously solidly the whole time, but every day I cried some when I connected with her. And it was like the most intense connection I had ever felt in my entire life. And I could never deny that, even to myself. I wasn't sure that anybody else would ever believe me, even though I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. I was like, okay, well, maybe I should like keep this to myself because other people might think I'm crazy. But yeah, it was the feeling is believing for me. So when I feel the energy so strongly, I know that this is real. This is something I need to listen to. So as my abilities began to open through me committing to meditation, committing to connecting to myself, committing to walking in nature and sitting with the trees and just being, and not trying so hard just to survive, then I began to awaken more and begin to realize what is really real. And that these are all just walls, and I began to understand what energy and what this world is about. And I guess it was just a process, you know. And then one day I was like talking about how I'm awakened.
I see the magic everywhere. It's real.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so fantastic how you say it's feeling for you is believing rather than seeing, because there are these interactions that we have where you know you sound crazy, but you don't care because it's just too real to deny. And I had one of those experiences. I laugh at you saying you just couldn't connect to angels. I had an experience where the once I was not in a good space. The tears wouldn't stop. It was just not, it was not a nice feeling. And I very often just release stuff for other people. So like I said a prayer and I was like, whoever this is, like, please angels. And this was the first time I'd ever said this. I was like, please just wrap them in a hug. Let them feel your arms around them. And in that moment, it was like I was engulfed from behind me, just like all of that energy, all of that warmth. And it was, I don't want to say I leaned back, but it felt like I was being held in that space. And it just, everything inside of me just like shattered open. And it was like, oh my God. So that is such a beautiful reminder to everyone that whatever you're feeling, it's real. Just allow that belief to grow and grow. And that was also such a, I think, such a gift that cards give, is just as layer by layer, practice by practice, it allows us to grow. Was there a specific experience with your cards, like how you said you had the Reiki healing and then you realized, oh my God, I believe in angels? Was there one with your cards that you were like, these things work?
I would say I can't think of a specific one, but I know even still, I'll pull a card, and like, let's say I'm talking with someone, or I'm with a client and we're talking about something, and then I pull a card and it's like, you just have to laugh because it's so perfect. And it's like the exact thing that you had just said. And I think that for me was happening all of the time in the beginning. You know, it's like so many synchronicities and things clicking together that you can't deny it. And to me, it was like proof over and over and over again that all of this is real and this is who I am, and that it's okay. I grew up in a religious home. I was terrified to get I got tarot deck first. I was terrified to get a deck because I'm like, they're going to think that I worship the devil or something. Like, I didn't understand at that time. I didn't understand how any of it worked. And I was like, people are going to judge me so much if I have this. And now I'm like, they're laying all over my room. I have shelves of decks. My mom comes to visit. I no longer hide them away, and she just looks the other way and pretends like she doesn't see them. But, you know, it's like, you know, there are tools, and they are a connection to our own intuition, and a connection to the divine, and a connection to, you know, all of these different energies, like the unicorns and the fairies, and, you know, the divine feminine oracle here. So the different goddesses and feminine energies that are here helping us on our journey. They're here to support us and helping us to connect to who we really truly are. And that's how I see it. Everything comes back to us. You know, if we're going to go outside ourselves for information, it should be about bringing us back to ourselves in a way. So because we know what is best for us. And when they help us see, oh, you're an incredible being, or you have incredible healing abilities, or whatever it may be, then it just helps us to remember who we are and where we need to be showing up better or more, or whatever it may be.
Beautiful. And conversations like this, you put it together so nicely, because conversations like this allow us to go, oh, I also have that wall there, and I didn't even realize I'm hiding this every time that person comes home. Maybe it's just who I am. You know, maybe it's not something that's against anything. It's just who I am. Like you said about the tarot, I also grew up heavily religious, and for a long while in the beginning, I said to people, no, I don't read tarot. I read oracle cards. Like, no. And then one day it was just like, what am I doing? Like, I'm like, that's so weird.
Yeah, people there is a lot of misconceptions about tarot cards, and people can be a little bit more comfortable with oracle cards, and some people are more comfortable starting with like affirmation cards or something like that, but there's not really that big of a difference between them. And it's all about being in the right energy yourself and having the right intentions, and that's what it is. This is a box. It has pieces of paper inside of it, but until you connect with the energy of it, that's what it is. I mean, you can look at it in different ways. Yes, it's sacred, it's important, but it's not, there's not demons in this box. There's not a devil connected to it, unless I chose that, unless like I went into that energy, then yeah, I could call in different energy. But yeah, I think that there's just a lot of misconceptions about tarot cards in particular, oracle cards too, but tarot cards especially. So it was definitely, I just didn't understand. For me, I just didn't understand, and it took a little while to understand it.
Would you mind sharing, I love how you just said it's just a box with pages in it until we connect with it, right? Because the energy is neutral. It's just waiting to be recognized for what it is, remembered for what it is, to play on that wording. Somebody who is listening to this right now, who maybe is at the beginning of their journey of reading for themselves, maybe not even for anybody else, what suggestions do you have about how to allow that connection to grow between you and the deck?
Well, my suggestion is to spend time with it. And I know that, if you read the book in most of the decks, it says, touch each of the cards, spend time with them. You can sleep with them under your pillow. You can put them on your altar. Just look at them. So when you get the deck, go through and look at the cards, and just, so I usually say like a little prayer basically over them, that they may only hold the energy of the highest and best good, the deepest of love, the highest of integrity. I set the intention that, it will only bring forward the messages that are truly going to empower myself or others. I ask for the divine energy of the cards to, be awakened, and for, that activation within the cards to happen. So to me, the cards, like I said, are just a box and pieces of paper. But once you get it and you wake it up, and so I will always knock on, every time I do a reading, I knock on the cards. So it's like I wake them up and I reset the energy every time. So knock on them 3 times. And then, yeah, it's spending time with them. So this deck, this Ethereal Visions Tarot, is my newest tarot deck. And when I got it, I was like, I don't know why I got this deck. Like, I don't know why I'm so drawn to it. It's not me at all. It's not really my style, but I knew I had to have it. And so I got it, and I spent time with it, and I put it on my altar. And then I was doing a reading with someone. I don't usually use cards in my readings anymore too much, unless I'm called to. Sometimes my decks will speak to me, and I just love using decks because a lot of times it just validates something that I've already said, but I don't usually use them. But I was channeling for someone, and the Empress from this deck showed up. I could see her clear as day, and I'm like, are you the Empress? Like she showed up as a being, and it was a very different sort of experience for me. And that showed me, that the energy of the cards, once activated, of course, once I'm connected to them, then they can come to me in other ways. So I can just be taking my dogs for a walk, and I might all of a sudden be like, I might be thinking, and then a card will just come into my mind, and it's like I pulled a card and I didn't even like mean to. I didn't actually have to have the physical deck.
Definitely. That is just so powerful, like having the card just come to life in front of you in that way. That's like the ultimate, right?
Yeah, I didn't even know that could happen. I was like, are you sure that's who you are? It was very
You're definitely not just a piece of paper anymore. I love that.
Yeah.
Also, something I'd like to highlight and hear your perspective on it, because like how you just offered where, reconnecting it, you gave a tool of knocking. I always love that because it's kind of like you're going like, hello, are you ready? Wake up now. But and what comes to mind to lead into this question is a reminder that we don't live in a linear time space. So we perceive it that way, but we don't. So you can already be connected and very in love with a deck of cards prior to you buying it. It was just interesting how when you pointed out that one card deck yelled like, you need me. I feel like that's most of our experiences with a card deck, right? We walk into a shop and you hear the person saying, I couldn't leave without it. Do you feel that is when your soul is like, this is who I am? Or how do you feel that soul plays a role in that?
Yeah, so I feel that Oracle and Tarot decks are to help us remember, like we mentioned before. So our soul or our higher self will be like, you need this deck because there's something in the energy that is presented usually through the images or like with the Oracle, the Dragon Faith, the channeled messages that are in them that will awaken like a remembrance within us. Or yeah, it's a remembrance. It doesn't matter if it's like an energy of healing or if it's an energy of wisdom, whatever it may be. It's there because it's to help us remember. Now, it can also be because I do work with clients that, you know, there's somebody that I know that needs them. So like for me, when I was really drawn to the ethereal visions, tarot is like, it's not really my style at all. It turns out that the energy is very powerful for me, and I actually really, really connect with the energy of the cards, even though I'm not totally obsessed. I love the gold, but I'm not obsessed with the style of the cards.
It's very shiny.
But yeah, they're a little bit shiny. I know, it's like a reflection there. But I thought maybe the reason I needed the cards because they belong to somebody else. And I have an awareness that sometimes that happens. It turns out that is not the case. Maybe someday they may belong to somebody else, but these cards do have a lot of energy for awakening remembrance in me. And they're probably the tarot deck, even though they're not my favorite tarot image wise, they have the most energy. And I have other tarot decks that I look at the images and I'm like, oh, these are beautiful. I love these so much. And I could stare at them all day long. So it's weird how different it is that I feel the energy so much stronger in this deck, even though I like it, the artwork of it, less than the others. So it's awakening a different kind of remembrance, I guess.
Yeah. And just an undercurrent in there, you feel them, you're not seeing them, which is just a beautiful full circle from your share earlier. Oh, yeah. That's magic.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. It is about the feeling. So much of it is feeling because it's so easy to judge. You know, I was like, that's not my style. I don't like it so much. Like I don't dislike it, but I don't like love the art. But I knew I could feel how much I needed it. And then I can feel the cards and I can feel the messages from them really strong.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing is you're sharing that is because when we're remembering, there's parts of ourselves we're not going to acknowledge that we know because it's a remembrance process. You don't realize that you know that. Maybe acknowledge is the incorrect word there. So it's going to look something like you're not used to because you've forgotten that that is you. So it's beautiful that you're trusting that feeling, and that feeling is available to all of us, so that when the sight isn't the norm or what we perceive as acceptable, that feeling is a truer guide.
That is exactly right. And for me, excuse me, I work with beings that don't always look acceptable to the human eyes, that can bring up fear within us. So for me, it's always been really important to be able to feel if they are right for me to connect with and not judge them on their appearance, because their appearance can be quite jarring and alarming in some cases. Now I have learned through much practice in being able to tell, you know, what is really for my highest good and tuning into, you know, the right energies to be able to decipher what is truly for me and what isn't. But that feeling makes all the difference when you can't go by appearance. And we can't really, because we are so conditioned as humans to what is beautiful, what isn't beautiful, what is scary and what isn't scary. And so we naturally go there, and we're unlearning, but it is a process. And when you have, in my case, I have had 39 years of being conditioned a certain way. And yes, for the past 7 or so of that, I've had an awareness of that conditioning, but it's still there. So I know that it's there. And I know that I can't judge things by appearance, and I have to tap into my own knowing and what I feel within myself. And then, of course, checking in with myself regarding integrity and all of that too.
Mm. What you just shared there, if I can circle back to what you mentioned in the beginning, where you said you grew up religious and you were in a very desperate space, which led you to the oracle cards. What was it, the feeling that was the final decision that you were going to break out of that religious background and play with them, or?
So I grew up in a religious home, but I never actually believed. So I never believed it was right. And I never resonated with the way that my parents believed. And so it wasn't so much that I was stuck in the pattern, because this was, this was like 7 or 8 years ago. And so I was already in my 30s by the time I got into this point. So I'd had, my adult years of learning to just, I guess it was like the beginning stages of being my authentic self. Yeah, I'd had some time already to kind of work through that. So it wasn't so much that I had an awareness that it was a conditioning and that it wasn't real. And I knew that. But it was still there, like it was still present. And mostly it was, I think for me, with the tarot cards, it was just using them and just doing it. Like there wasn't anything that I needed, like in using them, it was like it healed that whole belief system that I didn't really believe in anyways, but was still present because that's what I had known. It's just basically what I knew, even though I never believed it. It's kind of a weird thing, because I thought about this before and I'm like, I never actually believed it the same way as my parents, but I still managed to be conditioned to some degree regarding religion.
Yeah, well, most religions factor around where they add in people aren't going to believe it, and this is what's going to happen to those people. So as a kid, you have that in the back of your head, like, what if I'm wrong? Like, what if my parents were right in that? So
exactly. I think it's just like that little niggling bit of, what if I'm wrong?
and then you realize, oh wait, my heart's been right all along.
Yes, exactly. Our heart does know. Yeah.
Beautiful. So I have a fun question. If you were to describe, and let's pick that deck that you said is just yours. Side note, I think that's wonderful that you have a deck that you keep personal versus the ones you work with most people with. It's just like a very sacred relationship. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And if you were to put a taste to your relationship with that deck, what flavor or texture would you describe it with?
I would say chocolate, maybe with a hint of coffee, like chocolate with a little mocha, maybe a little mocha, right? So it's rich. It's a strong flavor, but yet it's smooth. It's the message comes through really smooth. It's but yeah, it's like a really rich flavor. I guess that's the best way that I can describe it. Is it's just very rich, and you can't mistake it.
I'm laughing because I almost made myself a mocha this morning, and then I vetoed the coffee part because I was like, no, I'm not gonna have coffee until this certain time. But that was my intention when pulling my mug out the cupboard.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite coffee drink. So yeah.
Definitely, it's good. I love that. You mentioned that you enjoy using the cards to dig into our subconscious. Do you have any golden nuggets for those growing their relationship with reading cards and specifically growing their intuition? A golden nugget allowing that bridge between the subconscious intuition dynamic.
So the first thing I would suggest is asking questions. So I know for myself, I didn't understand the concept of this in the beginning, and I would just pull cards willy-nilly and just wanting to get answers, and there was no like rhyme or reason, and then I couldn't put the message to what I actually needed to receive, and so it was a lot of like chaos because I was just getting all the different things and it wasn't clicking together. So I suggest having questions, and it's easy to get those if you can't come up with them on your own. Like I know that I create spreads for each full moon and each new moon myself, and they're on my social media, so you can find them on Instagram and stuff, and they will have questions that match up with the energy. So I know that the last well, I guess my moons might be running together because I've done so many different things with creating these lately that I might start mixing them up, so I won't say. But there was one recently that was about intuition. So the spread was all about asking things to dig into what's blocking you from seeing or from experiencing your intuition or connecting with your intuition. But when you have a specific thing that you want to dig into, it can be all kinds of different things. Let's say it's your shadows. You want to dig into the shadow aspects. What are the things that you're not seeing that you need to bring to the surface? And so go through and ask questions, or Google for some questions. I mean, you can find, there's all kinds of people who make up different spreads. The different books have spreads as well. So you can go through and do these different spreads to dig into things and go deeper and see things that you're not really seeing on your own. And I think that would be my number one thing, is ask more questions and not just pull cards willy-nilly hoping for that golden answer.
That was magnificent. Thank you. And side note, Pinterest, people put up great questions with tarot spreads on Pinterest.
I need to put mine on Pinterest. It's actually a good reminder for me. I post them on social media, but I haven't posted them on Pinterest. So
it's a great place to put them because it's quick and it catches your eye, and just the certain way certain people word questions, you don't even realize that that's what you were actually asking, and then you read it and you're like, oh my God, yes. So I'll keep my eye out for your pins. Love that.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we have a hard time coming up with questions ourselves for things that we need to know. I know for myself, I often have a little bit of a harder time, and that's why I like doing the spreads for each of the moon cycles, because it keeps that momentum going. At least every 2 weeks you're going to be doing a spread and digging into some things that are, kind of a collective energy. So like when the new moon is going to be in Libra in the middle of October, and so if we're in Aries, we're going into Aries right now at the time of recording this, but each of them has a really strong energy. So let's actually talk about Aries, because we have that energy right now as we're recording this, and it's a doozy. So if we know that this is a time that we can dig into things regarding anger or suppressed emotions that are kind of the more fiery emotions that we may be holding down or holding shame around. So this is the time to dig into those things. What are you angry about? What are you resenting? But you can take those questions much deeper and get even more into what it is regarding those. So that's why I like doing it at each of the moon cycles, because that holds that specific energy for things that will help you in healing in those areas.
Beautiful. And when you do your spreads, do you share on your online what each moon is about? So if I missed that.
I do, yes.
Okay. Nice. So it's always nice to have resources that support our understanding and learning, and in simple ways. And it sounds like that's just a really easy way to absorb the moon and how the moon can be used in our life, and then not just some giant floating orb in the sky.
Yes, exactly. And the moon is here to like, it helps us in our own growth. And those, I don't know that much about astrology, but I do learn. I'm always learning more about the different moons in each of the astrological signs and what energy that brings. So to me, that is one aspect of astrology that I do always kind of keep up on, is the moon cycles. You just sneeze.
That was a release of energy.
It was like, I didn't hear anything. I just saw it.
One way that I release energy is through sneezing. So I've learned how to not make a noise, because sometimes I'll be like in a group meditation or leading the meditation and someone will have like a massive release, and then my nose wants to release that way, and I have to, instead of going achoo, just kind of hold it in. But still allow the release to happen as well.
That's awesome.
Oh, that was so funny.
It's awesome that you can do it without a voice.
I got told by someone, they're like, that's how you get a brain aneurysm. Oh, your internet's gone funny. Lalantia, return to us.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. The screen's just still frozen. But finish what you're saying, where you always sneeze and then it cuts you off. Wait.
Oh, okay. So I was sneezed like multiple times. So yeah, my sneezes can't be silenced.
Do you have that like 6 times in a row kind of sneeze pattern?
Yes, I do.
I'm grateful I don't get that, because it sounds sore.
Yeah, and it is a little bit hard on the brain, I think.
It's like really, getting like shaken up there. Maybe that's what happens when we sneeze. We just need to shake up our brain a little bit. I'm going to tell people that.
Yeah.
Instead of saying bless you, just being like, you're shaking it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so in respecting our time, I think your Wi-Fi is letting us know that the clock is ticking to our final 2 questions. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, so your sound keeps coming through, just the video freezes. So second final question. What about reading cards as a way of being, that they're just a part of who you are now, allows your heart to smile? Issue. Shaking it up.
Yeah. I would say that, let me think about this for a minute. This one is a little bit trickier. So for me, it's that I love the images. I love the pictures on the cards. I love how they're all so different and they all awaken something different in me, and a different sort of like remembrance or something that I'm not seeing on my own. So like the Blessed Be deck, the images are just so full of significant things, you know, and when you look at it, the things that pop out at you are the things that, you know, are the messages that you need to get. You know, if you look at the card and all you see the armor, then what is the message in armor? So I love that aspect of it, and it makes me, it like nurtures that creative part of me, I guess, which I never really thought of it that way before, but it actually is true that it is a creative aspect of myself that kind of comes forward when I look at the art of the different cards and, you know, what stands out to me.
Fantastic. You've shared so many gems today. Thank you. And spotted throughout, you have shared a little bit of what people can receive through your page and your social media platforms. When people follow the different links provided, what will they find?
Well, for one, I have a group. It's called Sorceress Circle, and it's a free group on Facebook. And I host that with my friend Natalie. And so in that group, we go live 3 times a week, and we do channeling, we do weekly readings, and we do a conversation. So we talk about different things. It's kind of a teaching video, but more in a like conversational type way. So that is about all things regarding spirituality, but it is a circle, and in a circle about everybody is equal and everybody has their own voice and share themselves fully without any sort of judge. Equal, like I said, I like that everybody's equal. There's no judgment of anybody being better than anyone else. do share channeled messages, but also on Instagram. So I'll post cards. I love to share cards, share like a channel message that I receive from cards, or the energy that I'm reading, which is still channeling, but whatever energy that I'm getting from the cards. So I do that pretty regularly. I do, in those, they're like programmed with energy and information and activations, and oftentimes there's like a little activation at the end. You know, you can receive a little bit of a healing or some kind of energy clearing regarding the message that was shared. So I guess that's a little bit of what you can get. I also have a YouTube channel that I do videos on all different kinds of magical beings. I review oracle and tarot decks. I did an unboxing of a deck on there recently. Sometimes I do meditations. I do monthly readings at this time, which might change because I'm starting another YouTube channel with Natalie, which isn't yet started, but it is coming. But yeah, on there you can learn about dragons. You can learn about, I did a video recently on gnomes, so people can learn about gnomes and how to work with them and manifesting and creating the new earth. So there's all kinds of stuff on there too.
Beautiful. Lots and lots of value. And just a funny full circle, so your voice was still coming through, but the video was quite choppy. So it was that beautiful reminder that we can feel what you're saying and not necessarily need to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really weird that my internet is being weird, because I have been on the internet all day and I didn't have any problems until now.
It just needed us to learn that little bit of a message.
I guess so. Like, maybe it's just we're just having a lot of energy going on here. I don't know what the deal is, but yeah, maybe that's the message.
I think I do need to incorporate my grounding stone when I do these interviews, because this is the second one that there's random technical surges. So sorry if if together we created that, but not sorry because everyone else hearing this is feeling it. And I know I've truly enjoyed this conversation, and I've just loved your insights and perspectives on your journey with reading cards.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on today. You know, it's not often enough that I get to talk about cards. You know, I'm a channel and I channel guides for people all of the time. I channel the different beings that are coming through. And sometimes I just miss using my cards, and because they just don't get used enough. So, and I don't talk about them enough. Like, I love cards, and I think that they are an incredible tool for us.
Definitely. What a wonderful way to end today. Thank you. Thank you, Lalantia. Thank you, each and every soul who joined us, felt us, and received.